Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dylan Talks Movies. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. It is a special video because if you guys watched my last video, which is my return to Dylan Talks Movies, talking about myself and relaunching my channel, I suggest you guys go check out that for more context. But basically, we are going to be counting down my updated ranking of my top 300 favorite movies of all time. So, as I stated in my last video, that my full top 300 list from Letterboxd, you guys can follow me on Letterboxd, link in the bio, in the description, link in the description. And so you can access it link only through my Discord server. So my Discord server, the daily server. So if you go through my Discord server, go in pin messages and announcements, or in the Letterboxd channel, which I have, you guys can find it and see my full top 300 list. But after I post all the videos talking about all 300 movies I love, I will make the list public for everyone to see. But if you're part of my Discord and you come join it, you can get early access for free. That's right, for free. So yeah, and come join my Discord server if you want. It's pretty cool there. It's fun, you know, it's pop culture based, but also a place to chill out and stuff and have fun and share the passions and interests you love with others. And it's a cool place to chill. I highly recommend it. But enough dilly-dallying. Here's how it's going to go down. So, since I have 300 movies to count down, there is no way in hell I'm going to make this into one big video, because it's going to be a lot of time, editing, and storage that I have to make, and it's gonna be the death of me if I try to do that. So I did the math. I'm gonna do 10 videos. This is the first part video of my 10-part series of my top 300 favorite movies of all time, and I'm gonna do 30 movies per video. So 10 videos, 30 movies, 10 times 30 is 300. You get the idea. So this is the first part, and we're going to go through number 300 to number 271, and that is 30 movies. I double checked because I wasn't sure, but I did. So yeah, so we're going to get into it, and I'm going to try to be brief as possible, mention a movie, why I like it, favorite part, keep it basic and simple. Before I start, I just want to make something really clear that when ranking for me, when I put something low or at the bottom of a list, when I'm ranking, I do not think that, in this case movies, I do not think those movies are bad or worse or horrible. I still do love them. I just don't love them as much as other movies, you know? Like, I'm not trashing and saying these movies are shit, they're horrible. No. If they were horrible and bad, they would not be in my top 300. So the fact that they're in there is a huge honor, and I love them anyway. So I just want to make it clear that if it's something's bottom list or low when I'm going through the first round, I do not think these movies are bad. I enjoy these movies in each of their own way. So yeah, let's get started.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
History of the World Part 1. I love Mel Brooks, one of my favorite, just comedic legends in cinema, and this movie is funny. It has a lot of funny moments, hilarious moments. One of my favorite moments being the Spanish Inquisition song and dance number. I think that's the best and most iconic part of the movie for me. And then, of course, you got the iconic
It's good to be the king.
I love his other movies a bit more than this one, but this is not a bad movie. I think it's really good, and I enjoy it for what it is. So yeah, History of the World Part 1, it's pretty good.
We don't really talk about this.
Spider-Man 3. So, the conclusion to the Sam Raimi trilogy. Movie has its issues and complications, and it's messy some parts because of studio interference with Raimi's vision and all that drama. There is one reason why we all love this movie, and that is because of the brilliant and amazing, wonderful internet memes from this movie that has been put out there, and it is iconic. Like the Bully Maguire memes and the lines, you know.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye. Look at little Goblin Jr. Gonna cry?
See you, chump.
Makes the movie so enjoyable and stuff. And it's a Spider-Man movie. It holds really well. It's pretty damn enjoyable in my opinion, and it has a lot of good moments. Like, of course, like when Peter puts on the symbiote for the first time, and then the music just goes hard. It's just goosebumps, you know. But Spider-Man 3, you know, despite its fair share of like complications, plot-wise and story-wise, a good conclusion to the trilogy. But yeah, the memes, they're the best part, and we all know it. Moving on.
Shall we play a game? It's from a movie that was really popular.
Myself.
WarGames. So WarGames is one of those like 80s computer-esque movies, you know, hacker movies and stuff. It's a fun 80s movie. Matthew Broderick, Ali Sheedy. It's one of those propaganda movies that like came out during the height of like the Cold War between the US and the Soviet, global thermonuclear war, and just World War III, and just dropping nukes on each other and missiles. Like, it was some scary shit back then, I'm not gonna lie to you. The way that this movie deals with the realism of that, of just some kids who just wanted to hack into a system, play some games, but accidentally hacked into a military computer system, almost starting World War III and shit, you know. With how much the internet, technology, and society has evolved since then, I think it's a fun movie. It's a fun watch. The score is like 80s techno, computer-esque, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I do love the third act when they're in the war room with the simulations of the game, and then the music is just very intense and dramatic. I think it's just really cool and stuff. So it's a fun movie and I enjoy it. And fun fact, my dad actually auditioned for this movie, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah.
Nothing hurts Chow. I am invisible.
The Invisible Man. The original from 1933. I think the Invisible Man is probably my favorite Universal monster. It stands out for me because technically he's not really a monster. He's just very much like a mad scientist who just went insane, who made himself invisible. The movie is really ahead of its time, and the reason I love it is the special effects are phenomenal. For 1933, this movie is almost 100 years old. The special effects they used to make Claude Rains, who's amazing in this, invisible, like the technique, practical effects they use, out of this world. Phenomenal. Just really scary because for someone who's the Invisible Man, dude is completely invisible, don't know where he is. Like, he could be right behind you, can cause mayhem, cause deaths, and he's just a crazy scientist. You know, I think it's really cool. And also, fun fact, Claude Rains' iconic crazy laugh from this movie, the iconic scene where he unravels his bandaged face to like the cops and the townsfolk, seeing him fully invisible and shocked, which is amazing, iconic sequence when he's laughing. That laugh was the main inspiration for Mark Hamill's Joker laugh for the Batman animated series, which I think is really cool. Invisible Man, it's awesome. I like it.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
Space Jam. Space Jam is just a fun 90s family comedy sports film. It has everything you could love, you know, Michael Jordan, the Looney Tunes, in a basketball game against a bunch of aliens who works for a boss voiced by Danny DeVito for this intergalactic theme park and shit. It's just one of the most 90s-ness movies ever. It's very 90s, but I'm saying that in the best way. And it's very nostalgic for me because I watch this movie a lot, and it has a lot of funny moments, you know, pop culture references. Bill Murray showing up, I think, is hilarious. I think Wayne Knight is very funny in this because I love Wayne Knight, you know, Newman from Seinfeld. So I think, like, as the comic relief, I think he did it really well. And of course, there's Lola Bunny. If you know, you know, but I am not going to get into that right now.
God damn!
Anyway, Space Jam is a lot of fun, and also the soundtrack. The soundtrack slaps. It's so good. It's a fun childhood classic for the 90s and stuff, and I really hope people in the near future rediscover. It's a really fun movie. I'm not going to talk about the HBO Warner Brothers advertisement that is A New Legacy.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
We don't talk about that one. I'm sorry, we don't. Moving on.
Why is Jim treating the magician poorly?
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I know this movie's very like conflicting and mixed feelings for people. As a Marvel movie, I thought the movie was pretty good. It was like, all right, it has some good things about it. But as a Sam Raimi fan, I loved it. I adore Sam Raimi, and his style and aesthetic and trademarks and shots like were so well done in this movie. I saw inspirations like from shots seen like in Evil Dead 2 or Dark Man, Quick and the Dead, or the Spider-Man trilogy or Army of Darkness. Like all the movies he's did, just seeing like the Sam Raimi aesthetic and stuff. And of course Bruce Campbell is in there. I'm glad he's in there because Bruce Campbell is the fucking king because he's awesome. I really love the horror aspect. The movie is not as horror as like they originally hyped it up, but it does have some scary moments. Like I thought Wanda as the villain, Scarlet Witch, I thought she was really good and really creepy and scary at some moments. So I thought Elizabeth Olsen's performance for that was great. Benedict Cumberbatch and Benedict Wong, you know, Doctor Strange and Wong. I love Wong. I think he's one of the best recurring characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I did love America Chavez. I thought she was a cool character. The main gripe about this movie, and I think this is everyone's issue with it, is just the writing and the story. Could have been a lot of things that could have improved on this movie that would have made it like great, but it was all right in that aspect. But everything else I thought was really, for Sam Raimi, I thought was really fun. The music by Danny Elfman was great. I love some of the shots. Like even when they're going through different multiverses, I thought that sequence was pretty cool. Seeing Illuminati was all right. Seeing Charles Xavier, Patrick Stewart again, John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, I thought that was a really cool concept they threw in there. Overall, as a Sam Raimi movie, I think it's a lot of fun and I enjoy it. So yeah, my opinion.
Let's see that in an instant replay.
Tenet, Christopher Nolan, of course, came out during like the pandemic. I think it's really a cool concept for a movie. The time inversion, I thought John David Washington and Robert Pattinson were great, and Kenneth Branagh was really good as the villain in my opinion. The scene that they shot and filmed were like really cool. Like the inversion scenes going backwards and forwards. I love like the cinematography and then the symbolism, like the red is forward, the blue is backwards, and just how some scenes like just like come back later on from different perspective, going backwards and forwards or going forwards and backwards. It could be confusing. It has some good moments in it, and for a Nolan film, it doesn't disappoint. Has some slow parts, but you know, is what it is. But one thing that I really love about this movie is the score by Ludwig Göransson, you know, who did the Oscar-winning score for Oppenheimer, also did Oscar-winning score for Black Panther, also did Mandalorian and Creed. His score for this movie is amazing, and it's one of my favorite scores to listen to. Posterity, that score goes hard, and I am not kidding when I say it's so fucking good. I enjoyed it.
Guys, I finally made it to New York City!
Lady, shut the fuck up!
Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Home Alone movies are classic, the first two I mean. Every holiday season I always watch them and stuff, and the first one's a classic. The second one is pretty fun too. I don't think it's better than the first. I do think it's like almost on par with the first in my opinion. It just took the same concept and sort of plot from the first one and just expanded it more. Kevin is lost again. He's lost in a big city in New York. They really used the filming locations for this really well in my opinion. Like when Kevin first arrived, All Alone on Christmas by Darlene Love is playing, which I love that song, one of my favorite holiday songs. Locations and famous landmarks of New York City. I thought that was just a really cool sequence. And of course, Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci as Marv and Harry are hilarious once again. I think the standout for this movie is Tim Curry as the Plaza Hotel concierge. I think he's goddamn hilarious in the movie. The few moments in little screen time he's got, every time he's on screen, he just plays the role perfectly, and he's so goddamn funny. It's a fun sequel. It's a fun sequel, and I watch it every Christmas along with Home Alone 1. So yeah, it's fun.
Well, I'll just say what's in my heart. Ba-bump. Ba-bump, ba-bump.
The Producers, the original from 1967. Mel Brooks classic. This film got him in Best Screenplay win. Such a fun concept for a movie, especially a musical, because this movie had a very successful Broadway musical adaptation with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick. But yeah, I give credit to the OGs, which is Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder, who are freaking hysterical in this movie. And they're both comedic legends. Rest in peace to both of them. Their chemistry is just so hilarious, and just the concept of the whole movie about like what if producers can make more money with a flop than they could with a hit. The premiere of Springtime for Hitler, that whole sequence is just so goddamn hysterical.
Don't be stupid, be a smarty. Come and join the Nazi party.
It's just so out there in classic Mel Brooks fashion. I would love to do a musical production of this. I've done a We Can Do It from the Broadway musical version of the movie, and I did play both. For one class, one year, I played Max Bialystock's character, but then another one, I also played Leo Bloom's character. So it was very interesting seeing the difference between the characters and playing them well, and it's just a lot of fun to do. And so if I ever see like a production of this going around near me, I want to audition for it and I want to do it and be part of it because it's such a fun show to do. And The Producers is a classic. I highly recommend it if you guys haven't seen it. So yeah.
My parents can't be spies. They're not cool enough.
True Lies. It's a really funny action comedy romance spy thriller. James Cameron, of course. Funny, good performances from Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis. I think Jamie Lee Curtis is hilariously great in this. She plays her role so well. And Arnold is classic Arnold, and you can never hate classic Arnold. Can't get wrong with a good Arnold movie. Those scenes they shot and the action, because James Cameron, of course, gotta have that grand scale action that he always has in his movies. I really wish Jamie Lee Curtis and Arnold Schwarzenegger would make a film again. They were both great in this. It's very rewatchable. True Lies, it's good.
It's the end of the world. Holy crap!
This is the end. I think this movie is pretty hysterical, which is the concept that what if these big celebrity friends, especially comedic celebrity friends, what do they do when the apocalypse happens? How do they survive? Jay Baruchel, Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jonah Hill, Craig Robinson, Danny McBride, just all of them in a house together, just shitting on each other so much. Like a lot of the things they say to each other in this movie, just making fun of like their careers or like actual shit they want to say, where they improvise so much. Like Danny McBride said to Seth Rogen one scene, is like,
Seth, that's a better performance than you've given in your last 6 movies. Where the fuck was that in Green Hornet, huh? Jonah, you're fucking sucking balls. You're an Academy Award nominated person. You need to be fucking selling that shit, dude. Fatalities. There was some fatalities.
Fatalities.
Okay, no, that was good. That was good.
This is the way they jab at each other in the careers is just so funny. And there's a bunch of other like appearances from Michael Cera. Michael Cera in this movie, who is usually typecast for playing the same character, like this is a movie where he does not play himself, and he is hilariously great in this movie. Like he's just high on coke, a wild card of a person, just really just out of his element, just being out there, and it's just so goddamn funny. This movie is so goddamn quotable. Like, there's a lot of funny moments I always rewatch, and it's just a really fun movie. One of my favorite like Seth Rogen comedy movies. I think Danny McBride is arguably one of the best parts of this movie. His performance in this, because keep in mind they're all playing fictional versions of themselves, but Danny McBride is he's amazing, and he's really shines in this movie. And it's just so goddamn funny. So yeah, this is the end. It's great. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So I love Kevin Smith movies. I love that he was basically one of like the first filmmakers to establish a cinematic universe way before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, keep in mind. But then, of course, the recurring characters that we see in all these movies, of course, is Jay and Silent Bob, who played by Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, respectively. And this duo is just freaking hysterical. I'm so happy they got their own movie. This movie is just like peak 2000s raunchy stoner comedy. This movie is basically the Avengers of the VUS universe for Kevin Smith. Like all these characters from Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, like all coming together in one movie. All these actors from the previous movies. Even Jason Lee plays his characters both from Mallrats and Chasing Amy. So I think that's really funny. The whole premise about like a comic book based on them is being made into a movie because it's kind of making fun of like how ever since X-Men came out, you know, superhero blockbusters become the new thing for Hollywood. They're kind of making fun of that. And this is like way before like it kind of like took off. Just going to Hollywood, just trying to stop them is kind of funny. And there's a lot of big names and cameos in this. There's American Pie reunion between Jason Biggs, Sean William Scott, and Shannon Elizabeth. Shannon Elizabeth is freaking fine in this movie, but she's also hilarious. Both Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher appear in this freaking movie. James Vanderbeek, Judd Nelson. Oh, I completely forgot Will Ferrell is in this. Every time I rewatch this movie, because Will Ferrell doesn't appear like an hour in, I completely forgot he's in the movie, but he's kind of like just so funny in this. It's a really fun, stupid, silly movie. Like, of course, his other movies are way better than this. Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. It's good.
What robots are you talking about?
The goddamn robots, John!
Robots from 2005. Robots is my favorite Blue Sky film. Robots holds a special place in my heart because it's one of those anime movies I've rewatched a lot when I was young. Like, I remember being like, I was 3 years old, just had a whole phase with it. Like, there's a Cold Stone where I live, and I remember when the movie came out, there was a promotional flavor called Rotteny Copper Bottom, which is basically blue cotton candy ice cream, because Rotteny Copper Bottom is Ewan McGregor's character. And it's just cotton candy ice cream, but I just remember just vivid memory of that. But Robots is a very good movie. Behind the comedy and silliness and meta humor, it has a lot of like deep layers of like capitalism and classes. It's a fun movie. It has really good messages about going with your goals, do what you want to do, inspiring and motivation. And also the cast is stacked. Robin Williams, freaking Amanda Bynes, Halle Berry, Mel Brooks. Again, I mentioned Mel Brooks so many times in this fucking video. It's crazy because he plays Bigwell. Robots is such a good movie, and if you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I love the world building aesthetic of it, like the Rube Goldberg cyber metal like aspect of the movie. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so yeah, Robots, it's great.
You know the big move at the end of Dirty Dancing where Patrick Swayze picks up Jennifer Grey?
Yeah.
I can do that.
Dirty Dancing. What can you say about Dirty Dancing that hasn't already been said? It's a classic, and it's one of my mom's favorite movies ever. Like, she loves this movie, but let's be honest, everyone and their mother loves Dirty Dancing, okay? It's a fun watch, you know, a love story, dancing in the Catskills, in the 60s to 80s music. Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze, you know, who infamously did not get along on this movie because of working together in Red Dawn. Their chemistry really works. Patrick Swayze, rest in peace. He's Patrick Swayze, you know? The soundtrack is great. And Kenny Ortega, fun fact, Kenny Ortega, who directed like Hocus Pocus and High School Musical, did the choreography for this movie. Even the iconic last final climactic dance scene with the iconic lift in it, and that took a lot of takes. Patrick Swayze's back was getting like severely injured. Yeah, one more hit him, and when they got the one more take, boom, cinema magic at its finest. I feel like it's one of those movies that you have to watch once or twice in your lifetime. I know my mom watching this will love to make a video about it or something, but we'll see. Maybe I should bring my parents on here and maybe discuss their favorite movies, because that'd be a lot of fun to do and stuff. So if you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments section below. But yeah.
Gold guy, gold guy, gold guy.
Austin Powers and Goldmember. So I love the Austin Powers trilogy itself. It's just so hysterical. And Goldmember, even though it's like my least favorite in the trilogy, it's still pretty funny. Mike Myers is playing 4 goddamn characters in this movie. Austin, Dr. Evil, Fat Bastard, and of course, Goldmember. I think he's just so funny.
I love gold.
I think Beyonce was really cool. Foxy Cleopatra. Spoilers, by the way, but I think the twist that Austin and Dr. Evil are twin brothers is such a twist that it's so goddamn silly and such a cliche, but it works so well because they're played by the same goddamn person. I'm going to bring this up when I bring up the other movies because the other movies are in my top 300. Mike Myers' range is fucking incredible, where he's just playing both the hero and the villain. Every time I rewatch any of the movies, I always keep forgetting it's the same person. It just shows you how good Mike Myers is. And also, I do love Fred Savage with the mole bit. The opening scene with freaking Tom Cruise and Gwyneth Paltrow, all these like celebrities being in a fake Austin Powers movie directed by Steven Spielberg. I mean, that's just so meta. That's so funny. And I really hope Mike Myers, I doubt he will, but it'll be cool if he made a fourth Austin Powers movie. But you know, it's not gonna be the same without Vern Troyer, aka Mini-Me. Rest in peace.
Oh, we found a map that said that underneath this place there's buried treasure.
Treasure Planet. It's one of those like underrated post-Renaissance Disney movies that did not do so well at the box office but gained this cult following. It's also one of those movies nostalgically that I've rewatched a lot when I was young. It's a fun sci-fi twist on the Treasure Island story by Robert Louis Stevenson. The aesthetic and the vibe of the movie is just really cool. I do love the relationship between Jim and Silver because they both know they're each other's enemies competing for like the treasure, and just develops into this surrogate father and son relationship. Makes like the near the climax of the movie emotional. It has a lot of fun characters in it. It's really fun, and the music, by the way, the music is very underrated. It's a really cool twist on the story. Treasure Planet is pretty damn good, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
With me, the fourth male lead from Death to Smoochy.
Death to Smoochy. Now, this film is a film that I recently discovered through TikTok because of that sound. And it's really an interesting movie because it's a considered box office failure. But looking back now, it's actually pretty good. Like, I was actually surprised of how good it was. Like, it's a dark comedy, crime, the ins and outs of the networking of children's television programming, the competition and rivalries between Edward Norton and Robin Williams, who are both amazing in this movie. Also Catherine Keener and Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito directed it. Pam Ferris, who played Miss Trunchbull in Matilda. She plays an Irish mob boss, and she is actually pretty funny and badass in this movie. I thought she was really underrated in this. But Robin Williams stands out because he played very few crazy, sick, twisted characters in a few movies, and he really plays this one really well. Television host gets fired for like just being an asshole and just dealing with bad shit, and just tries to get back at Edward Norton's character, who's bringing something new to the table in children's television. It shifts. Like, one thing you know, it's a comedy. Next thing you know, it's a crime movie. Next thing you know, it's like a romance movie. Like, it kind of shifts genres a bit. I was surprised of how good it was. I actually really enjoyed it. You guys should really check it out. Death to Smoochy. I highly recommend it.
How should I start it? You like jazz?
La La Land by Damien Chazelle. I mean, what can you say about La La Land? It's La La Land. Aesthetic, love letter to classic Hollywood musical. I just love the camera work, filmmaking, the aesthetic, the cinematography, the amazing music, of course, by Justin Hurwitz. Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone are great together. They should really make another movie together. Just the way the musical numbers are shot and just filmed, it's just really magical. I cannot wait for them to make a Broadway musical of this, because seeing this on Broadway would be amazing. People either love it, people will hate it, people will not like it, don't agree with it. Like, I was on the fence about it. Like, when I first watched it, I was like, it ended like this? But then looking back now, realizing, oh, like, you kind of get it and stuff, but it has a lot of great moments in it. The music just really is like its own character in the movie, and it really just shines, I guess. It shines in the city of stars.
Infection's run its course, thanks to the blue meanie back there.
Yellow Submarine. I grew up listening to the Beatles thanks to my dad, and I love the Beatles. So this movie is just basically a drug trip, like on LSD and weed and shit. Magical musical fantasy comedy, I guess. The only con with it is that the Beatles didn't voice themselves, which I'm kind of disappointed they didn't do that. because they brought in other actors to voice themselves in the speaking parts. I mean, in the movie. But it's really fun. You know, it's the Beatles, of course. So, you know, like, the music's gonna be just like bopping, you know. Submarine is just a really fun movie, and just like the animation is very trippy, but also really beautiful for 1968, which is pretty impressive. I definitely recommend it, but maybe don't do drugs when you're fucking watching this movie. This is my PSA for all of y'all. So, yeah, moving on.
Christmas, the ice is frozen over the tracks.
Snowpiercer. So after watching Parasite, one film that popped up a lot when looking into Bong Joon-ho's filmography for me was Snowpiercer, which is based on a graphic novel. Gigantic train that travels all across the world, where the rest of the world has completely frozen into nothing, and the last remaining of the human population in the whole world is on this train. But the train is kind of separated into classes. Like, the further in the front of the train is all the higher upper class people, but the back of the train is like the homeless and the poor, and they're basically just working these soldiers, keeping them in charge. Chris Evans really puts on a really great performance. Tilda Swinton's also great. Ed Harris, Octavia Spencer, Shamie Bell. They're just going through the whole train, seeing all the different compartments and just how the rest of the world is living. It's very mind-blowing world building. It's really good.
I think we got like sucked into the game.
Tron Legacy. The original Tron did a lot for film. It's the first official motion picture feature film to use CGI. The early CGI just fits into the whole video game aspect of it, but Legacy developed its cult following. Tron Legacy is just a really good sequel. Daft Punk, who I fucking love Daft Punk to death, one of my favorite musical artists of all time. The music of this movie, chef's kiss. Beautiful. Really sad I never got to see them live in person, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Takes everything about the original Tron and just expands it more. The aesthetic, the costume design, the set design, the atmosphere, the cinematography. Jeff Bridges is really great in it, of course. It's just a really cool fucking movie, and it's just an underrated like sequel, or in this case, legacy sequel, because it's called Tron Legacy. So I think it's one of the best like legacy sequels done right. The light cycle, I still cannot get over Daft Punk's fucking amazing score. It's so good. Moving on.
Who are you?
I am the horseless headsman.
I think you mean the headless horseman.
Sleepy Hollow, directed by Tim Burton, stars Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci, and a lot of other big names: Miranda Richardson, Michael Gambon, rest in peace, Ian McDermott, Jeffrey Jones, Christopher Lee is in there, Casper Van Dyne, Christopher Walken. It's one of Tim Burton's like dark movies he's ever made. The whole like Sleepy Hollow, Headless Horseman legend, expanding into his own version of it, works really well. They shot the movie on film. I could tell through the cinematography, the color saturation, like the gray and dark cinematography, and then you got like the bloody scenes, like the blood just stands out. Saturated, unsaturated red that just pops off in the cinematography is fucking beautiful, but in a dark, twisted way that only Tim Burton can make. He doesn't really make like really dark, like especially R-rated, because this movie is R-rated, like shockingly violent. The stunts they use for the Headless Horseman are really cool. One of Tim Burton's most underrated movies.
You are not you. You're me. No shit.
Us. Jordan Peele has become one of my favorite like modern filmmakers. I think Us is really underrated. I remember watching it, just mind-blowing for what it was. I think that twist was like so well done, because rewatching the movie, there's like little hints and beats kind of like foreshadow the reveal, and it's really well done. And I just love the world building of it, like the originality. The government made like brainless copy of you underground, where it's mimicking every movement you're doing in life, but then it decides, you know what, I'm gonna take over my doppelganger from above and just cause this doppelganger apocalypse, basically. Details and hidden things in this movie you probably would discover like more than once watching the movie. Lupita Nyong'o is so fucking good in this movie. Oh my god, her performances are really well done and just haunting. And Winston Duke is great in it. Even Elizabeth Moss, crazy concept for a horror movie, but Jordan Peele pulled it off. And I think one of the most hardest lines in the movie, Winston Duke's like, "Who are you people?" And Red says, "We're Americans." It was like, Jordan, I know what you're doing. I know what you're trying to say. And I was like, ooh, you're cooking. He's cooking right now. But yeah, he's definitely cooking. So one of Jordan Peele's best movies. And we'll talk about his other movies in the next couple of videos, hopefully.
Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
True Romance, directed by the late great Tony Scott and written by Tarantino. Classic twist on like lovers on the run. Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette are both amazing in it. James Gandolfini, Brad Pitt, Michael Rappaport, Chris Penn, and of course the iconic Sicilian scene with Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken is like one of the best like scenes in the movie in my opinion, and it's so good. It just has its own flair, and this is right after Reservoir Dogs and before Pulp Fiction, and Tarantino wrote this. And of course Hans Zimmer's music is so iconic in this. Like, it could be romantic and sweet, but it could be of course classic Tarantino fashion. It could be brutal as fuck. Oh, and of course, how can I forget Gary Oldman? He was really great too. Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria, her character Cassie dresses up as Alabama from True Romance in the Halloween episode. Just goes to show, even movies like this, not as popular as it was, still develop influence in culture and stuff. I like it.
He wants us to cut through our feet.
You go first.
Bullshit.
Saw is an interesting one. I remember rewatching the movies a long time ago. I only just rewatched Saw this past Halloween because there's a streamer I watch who says that is one of their favorite movie franchises, especially the first one. So I rewatched Saw and I really forgot how really good the first one is. James Wan definitely just hit it out of the park. It's just these two guys chained up in a freaking bathroom with a dead guy, little cassette tape recorder, just not knowing what the fuck is going on. The movie kind of just unravels itself. What is going on here? What do these two characters have in common? How the shit's gonna go down? It's just really innovative. One of the best like independent like horror movies in the 2000s. Carrie Elwes is great. Danny Glover, the actor who plays Adams is great. The actor who plays Zeb. Tobin Bell as the titular Jigsaw killer. He's fucking phenomenal. One of the best like villains in cinema, in my opinion. Like, his performance, we don't really get much of him in the first movie. Just how he plays on throughout the franchise just really cements him as like one of the best. But the first Saw really like took a lot of risks, and the twist at the end, of course, the twist is probably one of the greatest plot twists in cinema history, in my opinion. Really good like horror mystery thriller. So yeah.
Can't touch me. Can't touch me.
The Untouchables. The Untouchables is a movie I also rewatched not too long ago. Brian De Palma, Kevin Costner, Andy Garcia, Sean Connery, Robert De Niro, just amazing cast. Robert De Niro as Al Capone is just amazing casting, in my opinion. These cops just taking the law into their own hands to bring down Al Capone. Kevin Costner is great. Sean Connery is phenomenal in this movie. I love his character. And of course, Ennio Morricone's score is one of the best. It really fits into the vibe of like the 30s in Chicago, the gangster era. The carriage scene, which is a nod to Battleship Potemkin, is one of the best sequences in the whole movie. It's a really good movie to watch. Highly recommend it.
I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star. I am a big, bright, shining star.
MaXXXine. So this is one of the most recent movies on here. I did watch X and Pearl for the first time, and they're on this list, and I'm going to cover them when I get to them. But MaXXXine, it was fun. I think it had a lot of good moments, and Mia Goth is great. One thing I loved about it was the 80s slasher vibe it had. 80s horror movies, like slasher horror movies, it was its own genre in its own right. And this movie was like a love letter to that in a way. It has its moments. The supporting cast, like, you know, Kevin Bacon, Giancarlo Esposito, I think they were really, really, really good in their supporting roles. This movie could have done a lot more story-wise, in my opinion. I don't think it was bad though, but I will say it's like the least a favorite in the X trilogy. But Ty West did a good job. Me Goth did a great job. The soundtrack was really good. Revisiting the Psycho House at the Universal Studios lot was really cool. I think it was a nice conclusion to the X trilogy and to MaXXXine's story. You know what? I had some fun with it, and hopefully I'll rediscover it very soon.
It's just a doll. It's just a stupid little plastic doll.
Bride of Chucky. Chucky franchise, the Child's Play franchise, is one of my favorite horror franchises ever. It's probably one of the first horror franchises I remember watching when I was young. I know I should not have been watching Chucky when I was young, but I did, and I fucking love Chucky. All the movies, like, there's some I love more than others. The series is really good. Fucking love Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif is one of the best. His performance as Charles Ray, and of course the voice of Chucky, iconic. Most iconic voices in film, in my opinion. Brad Dourif's been in a bunch of things, from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to freaking Lord of the Rings. He just really helped make Chucky an icon. So they want to bring back Chucky into the 90s different way than the previous films, set the tone for like killer doll movies. The horror comedy vibe of it, an interesting take they went. Bringing in Jennifer Tilly as Tiffany Valentine was the best decision the franchise has made. Jennifer Tilly is a fucking queen. I never get bored when her character is on screen in any of the movies. I think she is a fucking amazing actress. Her and Brad Dourif's chemistry just works so well, and a lot of the lines between each other were improvised, which makes it so much better. And they actually, if you look at the behind the scenes of the movie, they actually recorded their lines together, which is not common for like voice acting in movies, whether it's like, you know, animation or live action. Chucky and Tiffany are like fucking amazing horror dynamic duo couple, whatever you want to call it. It's funny as fuck. Don Mancini, though, the writer and the creator of the Child's Play Chucky franchise, really created one of the best like icons in horror history. Bride of Chucky is just a lot of fun, and I just fucking love Jennifer Tilly. Too funny, but yeah.
Pick up the file!
Yo. What's up? The Black Phone. So this is another one I discovered recently, and I was shocked by how good this was. And I found out the movie was written by the son of Stephen King, because this movie had a lot of Stephen King vibes in it. I just love like the 70s aesthetic of it. Ethan Hawke's performance, very terrifying, but so good. It's one of the most like originally concept horror movies I've seen in a while. Very supernatural. This kid getting abducted by this kidnapper and killer, and just getting help on this phone from the dead children who were his victims, like helping him, the main character development, and how to fight back and defeat against him. A good plot twist and reveal, especially with the sister who has this kind of like special ability. And the soundtrack was really great. In the third act, the climax of the movie was like, I was on the edge of my seat. And I think they're planning on making a sequel to it, so I really hope the sequel is just as good as it. The Black Phone was really amazing, and one of the best modern horror films I've seen. And again, Ethan Hawke, wow, just amazing.
Come quietly, or there will be trouble.
You stole that from RoboCop.
RoboCop, directed by Paul Verhoeven, Peter Weller, Nancy Allen, Kurtwood Smith. Really fun action, sci-fi, I guess you consider dystopian movies out there. I think it's just a really cool movie to watch. Special effects like really hold up really well. Peter Weller just acting in that gigantic suit. The one-liners, the crazy action, even the leg holster thing. Like, there's just so many aspects of the movie that are just so cool. And the villains are great, relevant today, you know, with corporations and mega billion-dollar companies, you know, trying to weaponize, you know, police and politics and all these things. But it's such a fun movie to watch, and it's very gritty and bloody and violent, but that's the whole point of an 80s action movie. I remember I went to see a screening of it in 35mm, the director's cut of it, which is like the extended cut with like more gory aspects of it, at the Alamo Drafthouse, and that was a lot of fun to watch. And Paul Verhoeven has made some really interesting movies, some good, some classics, some really bad, but you know what? RoboCop really started it off for him. He started off so strong, and I gotta give him credit for that. That is it for part 1 of my top 300 favorite films of all time. I'm hoping to return with part 2 coming very, very soon after I upload this. But yeah, that is all I have for now. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more content Tell me in the comments what you guys thought of these movies, what your opinions on it. Hope you guys are excited for part 2 of the rest of my list. It's a lot of movies, but I'm gonna try and go through them as quick as I can. But yeah, it's a lot. But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to follow me on my socials, link in the bio and link in description. Come join my Discord server. Follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and of course go subscribe here on YouTube. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon. Have a good night.